Ladies and gentlemen, you just heard the audition by the quirky, zany, eclectic, and electric, uh, amazing Toronto artist. He may be the clone of Bob Hoskins turned into a rock star. Ladies and gentlemen, Spooky Ruben. How are you, man?
What's happening, Davey Wade? What's going
Dude,
on?
it's an honor to have you, man. I discovered you way back when Modes 1 came out.
Hmm.
A very good friend of mine, he showed me your music, and it just like it blew me away. It was so unlike anything that I've ever heard before, and it kind of divided my friends and I because we were mostly into metal and shit.
Hmm.
And then here you come with These Days Are Old, and I loved it, my friend loved it, but my other friends fucking hated it.
Right, right, right.
but but I just followed you over the years and just watched you grow, and it's been a phenomenal ride to see, and it's an honor to have you here speaking to you.
It's an honor to be speaking. I'm so glad you hit me up. I'm
Yeah,
actually,
dude.
I gotta tell you, it took me a minute to. I apologize for taking so long to connect the dots with just scheduling and stuff. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's fine. It happens a lot, man.
Like it's. I think it's also kind of like I'm just in this situation now where it's like I'm trying to finish my new album, and
Mm,
I keep telling myself I don't want to do any interviews, I don't want to do any shows, nothing until my album's done, because I'm constantly getting distracted by all these things, and like I wish I could be speaking to you right now about my new album, but
right.
it's not done yet, and part of the reason it's not done yet is because I keep, you know, this that so
Sure.
it's it's just very difficult, man, to be honest. It's very difficult to, when you don't have, it's, well, it's just hard to a bunch of things. I feel like in many ways it's also part of the reason, like I feel like a lot of times I feel like I don't even know if people care about albums, or if people would even notice that I put out an.
Dude, it feels like listeners like myself are a dying breed because I am an album guy.
Mhm.
I love putting on an album and just putting on track one and listening to the entire fucking thing. Unless I get distracted and I do something, then I'll pause it or whatever and then come back and hit play again.
Right.
But like the whole, because I noticed in your discography now on Spotify, it's single, 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 and I'm like, okay, you got like five albums and then single, 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 single. Do you feel like you wanted to put those on a whole album? Because the single thing is a new thing, right? It's just in terms of releasing on Spotify now or streaming.
Yeah, actually, I'm actually glad you brought that up, because I don't even know if it's not, that's not intentional that there's supposed to be all these like singles on Spotify. I think at one point I was experimenting with putting out a single like every week, but this is like, and I was re-releasing some of these single releases were actually songs from my older albums, or they were like, and so but or and half of them were just like B-sides, or things that I just thought I would just put it out on Spotify just to see if I could sort of get like some the algorithm going. But
Sure.
all the, you know I probably didn't do it right. Like I this is like maybe 3 years ago. I tried to do this thing called Single of the Week, but I didn't. I probably didn't. I was, now that I can see, now that I know a bit more about Spotify, I can see how, like, there is a way to do a thing where you put out a single every week to
Right.
get the algorithm going. But the way I did it 2 years ago was not the way that you're supposed to do it, I think. But who knows? I mean, I wish, but now that you say that, I didn't realize that that's what people are experiencing when they go to Spotify. That's all these singles.
Yeah,
'Cause
yeah.
I don't really want that. I might have to like clean that up. But if
What
that's
I always loved about buying a CD or a record at the store was you buy it. Sometimes you just buy it on a whim. You have no idea what you're expecting,
Hmm.
and then you play the album, and then you latch on to like sometimes there's like three or four really dynamite fucking songs that you want to listen to over and over again. But then once you keep listening to the album, another song that you didn't like before becomes another one of those. It just grows on you, right? And that's the thing I love about albums. And people are missing that experience now, and it's very unfortunate, I find.
I agree because for me, I mean, even I remember as a kid listening to the first albums that I bought, or whatever. It's like over time, there's like it would be like the non-single songs that you actually find that are like the best songs
The
on the
best songs, absolutely. Yeah.
and like, but you have to. These are songs that you don't get right away. It takes maybe 10 times. The 20th time you're like, okay, whoa,
Right.
now it's hitting me after the 20th listen. Okay.
It's usually the ones that are more difficult to pick apart with your ear at first. And then once you realize how much intricacies and nuances are in that song,
Hmm.
you start picking it apart and you're like, okay, this is a fucking masterpiece. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like on Modes of Transportation 1, like you had These Days Are Old, that was like a breakthrough for you, right?
Hmm.
But then you had like Crystal Cradle, which was like such a beautiful song. And I don't think it really got any kind of coverage.
I know. I agree. It's
Just like I've been listening to Modes 3 lately too,
Hmm.
and you got this song fucking makes me cry. Gunner.
Oh, really?
It brings tears to my eyes every time I hear it, and especially when you go to the
Okay.
high end,
Uh-huh.
but then Headlock comes in after, and it's just this fucking banger of a tune, and it just clears the air and like
I
I
see.
love that shit, dude. Yeah.
That makes me happy. Like, I know. I'm glad you. I'm man. It makes me happy that you're talking about Modes 3 because I just feel like I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I just don't even know who's listening to what. And so
Right, right.
because obviously a lot of people still talk about Modes 1 all the time. In fact, it's the 30th anniversary of Modes 1 this year.
That's right. Yeah, 1995.
So that's exciting. But again, it's like, you know,
Spooky Ruben is so much more. You know?
I know, man. Come on. So yeah. So that's cool, man. Yeah, no, I'm glad that's cool that you're telling me about Mode 3 because it makes me happy.
Oh, it's cool. Like front to back, it's one of those great albums, I find.
Right on, man. Good to know. Good.
And same with Bed and Breakfast, man. Another two great albums. I think my all-time favorite Spooky Ruben song though is My Female Friends.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. That's
It's just got everything in it. It's like, it's so great. Sorry, I'm trying not to fanboy out here too much.
no, that's cool. No, again, man, that's a deep cut, man. That's a deep cut. That was
I
actually
just
My Female Friends was actually the first song on Modes of Transportation Volume 2, which only came out in Japan. And then
right.
I took a bunch of those songs that came out in 1998, I think, or 1997. And then I took a bunch of those songs and put them on Bed and Breakfast. That's how
Right.
that's how that happened. Yeah.
Um, did you have like a lot of fan base in Japan?
Um, yeah, I mean, I think when the first album came out, it did really well in Japan, and then I did the Live in Japan EP, Wendy McDonald Live in Japan, and I've been to Japan since quite a bit. and I'm going back to Japan in March of this year. So in about,
Okay.
I'll be there in exactly 2 months from now.
You're doing a tour there, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, I just saw that post.
Yeah, so that's it's I mean, I think what people don't realize is that the English speaking music is a very small part of the music market in Japan.
Right.
It used to be maybe 40% of the market, like let's say in the 90s, but now it's probably down to like 5% or less.
Really? I think also in the 70s it was a lot bigger as well.
Yeah, well, probably yeah, probably in the 70s and then up until like whatever, like the mid 2000s, it all kind of the English speaking music kind of fell away.
Yeah.
There's like, obviously there's like the big, like someone like Taylor Swift. I think she'll like sell out a stadium in Tokyo or whatever.
Oh,
But
and
but like
shut down Toronto too.
right. But I but outside of that, it's like there's nothing, like there's
Yeah,
nothing there.
it's pretty
So
wild. Unless it's baby metal or something. Speaking of metal, you got your moniker
yeah.
Spooky because you used to play metal and wear like satanic t-shirts and shit, right? Like metal shirts.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You were a big metal fan. What kind of metal bands did you like back then?
Well, I was into, I guess what you would call now you'd call it to like, you'd refer to it like the original speed metal kind of bands. So, um, Metallica, Slayer, Exodus, Voivod was my favorite band in the end.
Nice.
But initially, Master of Puppets really kind of was a really kind of like, I mean, that was like the album for me when it came out. And
That's my still my favorite Metallica album.
yeah, I mean, for me, I mean, I don't know. To be honest, like after Master of Puppets, everything kind of went downhill for me.
I feel that, yeah.
I guess I'm.
I still remember when the Black Album was out, and that's when I was probably 12 years old when the Black Album came out. And my
Yeah.
brother got into it, and that's how I discovered Metallica. So I went to their back catalog, and I'm like, oh shit, okay, Master of Puppets. Ride the Lightning was good. And then me and my friends were awaiting Load. And when we saw the first single come on Much Music, we were like, dude, what the fuck is this?
Right, that's when they start wearing like the black like wife beater shirts and stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah. But they had what was it named? Marianne Faithful on that song
Oh God.
and doing the da, 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 da. And we were like, what the fuck is going on here? Oh, that was weird.
Oh
Weird.
man.
But now they're like old as shit and they're trying to go back to thrash. And it just doesn't hit as hard.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's like I think maybe what people don't realize is like when I was into Metallica, they were super underground, They were like
Right, right.
when Master of Puppets came out, that was like, I mean, that was considered super hardcore and underground. And
Yeah.
and then over the course, but they toured that album for like 2.5 years because Cliff Burton died in the middle of their world tour.
Hmm.
Jason Newsted joined basically a year and a half after Master of Puppets came out, and then and then they basically ended the whole Master of Puppets tour opening for Ozzy. And so
Right.
they went from, over the course of one album, they went from super underground thrash to becoming almost like a big name in metal within two and a half
Like a household name,
yeah,
honestly.
within 2.5 years. So
I think they
uh,
took a Faustian bargain somewhere at some point.
so I think like, and I think maybe that for me, maybe because I was, I guess just as a teenager or whatever, I was kind of like when they became super famous, then I didn't really like them anymore. It was that
That
whole
happened to me with so many bands, man.
I hate to say that, but it was kind of like because I was kind of like, what you're into Injustice for All? What do you know? You know nothing. You don't know anything
Yeah.
about that. Like anyway.
The same thing happened with my buddy with Nirvana's Nevermind. He was so into it, and then all of a sudden it exploded. He's like, I don't like this fucking band anymore.
Right, right. Which is, I guess, but when you're young, you're like that. That's how it is. You think
It's
that
an angsty thing to do,
you want to
I
be,
think.
you want to be the insider. You want to be on. You want to know something that everyone else doesn't know. You got to know that.
Right.
So,
Do you feel that in my opinion, I feel like you're very unrecognized, underrated. What do you feel about that kind of feeling as me being a fan or a fan telling you that kind of thing?
um, yeah, no, that's probably a good question. I mean, because I do think about it once in a while, or I do think a lot about how people always say to me, you should be way bigger and you should be, how come, you know, your shit isn't, you should be 10 times bigger than all these other people and no one knows about you and all this stuff, right?
I would imagine you try not to let it affect you so much and keep pursuing it, right?
Well, I just kind of feel like, or sometimes I just kind of feel like, well, why are you telling me that? Shouldn't you be making a post about that on Facebook? Like, it doesn't really help
Sure.
when you tell me that, it's like maybe you should like,
Dude, I feel the exact same way as a podcaster because the reviews that I get, they're like, this guy should have like a huge platform, this and that. I'm like, okay, well, share my shit then. Like, help me out, help a brother out here, you know?
well, there's a famous like video on, or there's like this like meme audio thing that says, "You didn't share my shit. You didn't." You know that there's an audio where it goes,
I don't think I heard that.
"Man, well, how come you're not famous? Because you didn't share my shit. You didn't." It's an audio that a lot of like people, how people use like it's a viral audio that people
Right, right.
on on Instagram or TikTok.
Yeah, I haven't heard it, but yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes sense. I mean, it's like there's so many artists out there, and I've always said this ever since I was a kid that there's so many people that aren't getting the recognition that they deserve. And I don't know. I've been trying to figure out why that is.
Mm.
It's just like maybe they just didn't get lucky enough, or maybe they didn't slit their wrist and write fucking their blood on his contract or something. I don't know. I just don't get it. But your music is very poppy, but at the same time technical. And there's a
Mm.
lot of different sounds in there.
Mm.
And I don't know, for me, it sounds fucking amazing. But then I play it for other people, they like it too. But then it's like, okay, if you like it, I like it, and this person likes it. Why doesn't this guy get what he deserves?
Yeah. Well, I think
Because
it's
we all want that for an artist, right? Like we all want an artist to be successful.
mm. I mean, it's just, I think there's different ways of looking at it. I think, because in some ways, I think there's a lot of bands that were great and they put out one album and then that was it. And then they never made music again. I mean, I think because I'm a solo musician, I'm still able to keep making records, even though I have a very small following.
Right, right.
So I'm not really,
You kind of do it your own way, and that's the thing I always liked about you too is that you the way that you write your music and the way you produce it, it's how you want it,
mm,
and you're not being really led by a label or anything that I think that I know of anyway
mhm.
to make a certain kind of music because you've always had that sound of Spooky Ruben.
Thanks, man. Thank you. I think,
And right now it's going in a little bit more jazzy direction,
yeah, I
which is
know.
cool. Dude, Pliny, Pliny
Yeah,
the Elder just fucking blew my mind, man.
really?
Amazing song. The composition, the lyrics.
Oh, thanks,
Can
man.
we get
Thanks.
into who that was? Plinius, right?
Yeah, Pliny the Elder, Plinius. So
And
Pliny,
how he inspired you to write a song about him.
Um, Pliny the Elder. So the first time I heard about Pliny the Elder is when I was actually working on Mechanical Royalty, the song, which is the from my previous album, which is a sort of an instrumental, sort of progressive rock kind of thing that I worked on with Adam Marcello was on drums and Carson Cohen on bass, and I guess we always talk about there's a correlation between like medieval kind of literary kind of subject matter and progressive rock. Like they sort of like go hand in hand.
Sure.
You know how Rush has like they yes,
Like Farewell to Kings kind of thing.
we have like
Yeah.
all these hemispheres or whatever, or like Greek mythology, for example, and
Yeah.
and so and then I think Adam actually, the drummer, my drummer, who actually he's in the meantime he's like played with Katy Perry for many years, and
Huh.
he turned into like
Wow.
a big arena drummer.
That's wild.
But he was, I think he actually told me about Pliny the Elder because I don't know what because we were talking about making another progressive rock song, and then he had this idea of Pliny the Elder, and it's like, and I just thought it's like a fun word to sing, like Pliny the Elder. Just it sounds fun to, it's fun for your mouth to say. Fun for
I
you.
love how you point to the sky too when you say his name in the video.
Yeah.
It's like
So
it's like the hero, you know.
yeah, because it's kind of, it's just a funny thing, but the fact that it's also a real name and gives it another level, and then it's like,
Right.
all right, and obviously I just read a lot of things about Pliny, and so basically the story about Pliny the Elder is that he is he was this guy who was he was the first guy to create the first encyclopedia in ever.
Okay.
So that I thought that was pretty cool, And it's funny because if you read his biography, it's like the amount of things that he did in his life are so over the top, and it just makes you wonder because even the book that he wrote, which is called like Historia Naturalis, it's basically it's like basically the almanac of the universe, and
Right.
first almanac, first encyclopedia of, and so it has pictures of like every plant, every animal, every and like, and so he but it's so funny because he was also known to be kind of like he was a very pompous guy, like a lot of these guys back in Rome, a lot of these like sort of philosophers or whatever you want to call them, like they were kind of they probably like embellished their life story quite a bit, like
Oh, I would imagine.
yeah,
Yeah.
if you read all the shit he did in his life, he was like the captain of the Navy, he was the captain of the Navy under this other kind of sort of ruler, and then he lived in all these different countries, and he saved people during like the eruption of the Vesuvius.
Oh, Vesuvius and Pompeii. Yeah.
So he actually went there to save a bunch of people and stuff like that. So I mean, his 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 life's work is just is probably overblown. I mean, it's probably like exaggerated. I mean, which is
It's like they made him look like a superhero, you know?
oh yeah, and but it's funny too because a lot of when you go that far back, I'm not really sure the year exactly, but ancient Rome, so it's like BC, obviously, and uh, they the if you look at the art the documents that they have to learn about people's lives, like they have just little fragments of papers and like little things, and then from all these little pieces of paper they try to put together this guy, what happened in this guy's life, You know,
Right.
it's completely. I mean, it's so. You know, it's
It's kind of like what they did with Jesus, really. I mean,
sure.
there's like 30 years of his life missing, right?
I
And all of
know.
a sudden he's the savior of humanity.
Exactly. I mean, it's the same thing, but it's just amazing how these historians will just connect all these dots. They write a book about it, and suddenly that's his life, you know, because one guy wrote a book about it, you know,
Right.
and so I mean, you know, but you know, I guess that's history in general, you know, and probably and obviously when people talk about what happened in their life, of course they're gonna exaggerate what happened to them, and of course they're gonna lie about many things that they did too, you know.
Right.
So you're gonna have so you're sitting on like these history books that are all kind of like written by people that were exaggerating someone's story who was already exaggerating when they were writing it down. So it's like this like amplification of exaggerations. Yeah.
And it makes them look like they could write something about me and make me look like a superhero when meanwhile I did jack shit with my life. If they had tiny little fragments, right?
Well, you've got an amazing podcast, yeah. So
Well, that's part of it, but you can embellish that. You
sure,
can
man.
embellish on anything.
I mean, yeah, it's crazy. I mean, and especially and actually it feels like now it's going with social media and stuff and misinformation, disinformation, we're actually going back into that kind of world.
Yeah, it
I feel
seems
like
that way.
I feel like maybe like in the 90s or I think there was a sweet spot of where people were like actually fact checking was maybe you know and maybe I'm wrong. I mean, I don't know. I just feel like it seems like now people are purposely using social media to spread misinformation. Let's put it that way.
Right.
Whereas I think at some point there was maybe there a little more people actually cared more about what was if it's whether it's true or not. It's
Hmm.
just a complete I think in the era of Trump or whatever, it just seems like there's a complete erosion, a total erosion uh of true journalism. Yeah.
I think it happened before that too. It
I'm sure.
started before that.
I'm
I
sure.
think
I'm sure.
actually on the dawn of the information age of, you know, when we first got internet, my first internet experience was through DOS. You remember DOS?
Uh,
I was using internet through DOS and
oh,
a dial-up
DOS, yeah.
modem.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean like the operating system?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah,
It
yeah.
was like
DOS.
pre-Windows, right?
DOS. Yeah, totally.
And then I was using internet through DOS. I was learning how to type the commands and go through all this shit because my buddy was a hacker and he taught me a bunch of stuff when
But
I
wait a
was
minute.
like
What,
14 years
that's
old.
so DOS is on what program? On what computer?
DOS was on like 286, 386,
Oh,
way back before Pentium existed.
yeah. See, I think when I think of old computers, I think of like the first because my dad actually had a Apple IIe.
Hmm.
Do you know the Apple IIe? Do you remember that one? It was like
I do,
one
yeah.
before the Macintosh. It was like the first
Yeah.
one, and it had like those like it had these two. He had two floppy drives, and they were like these. It was the floppy drive was about this big, and it had the floppy disks. And when you put the floppy disk in, it would make this grinding sound like.
I remember that, yeah.
It's like, well, it was such a like mechanical. It was such a mechanical computer in a way, you know.
And now
But
everything's so fast.
I remember we tried to like we had my dad had like a was like a member of like a computer club or something that would meet once a week, and a couple of times I went with him, and then they would swap out like you know some of these weird games like you know like text adventure games and stuff and like or those what you know and some of them I mean I just I'll never forget man some of those games just used to really had made such an impression on me man.
Sure.
Time he had this there's this one game that he got it was like a was called like Cyborg or something. It was like a science fiction video game. And the it was the first time I'd seen the most complicated computer graphics, and it was all futuristic, and it was on our home computer. And I was going crazy. I was
Freaking out, right?
be real. And probably looking back at it now, it would look like, it looked like shit, I mean,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
because I'm trying to think how much memory a floppy disk could hold, but it was like
It's probably like 246 kilobytes or something like that. It's
uh
very, very small. It wasn't, I don't even think it was a whole megabyte back then.
definitely not. No, 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 no.
Yeah, yeah.
Say less actually. Commodore 64 actually stands for 64K, which is like unbelievable.
Right. Yeah.
Can you imagine 64K? The shit that they got out of that, man. I mean,
And
that's
now,
64K is it's like a shitty GIF, like that's like all distorted, but you could play on Commodore 64. You could play like the most complicated poker games, and I don't know, man. Like,
it's in
or
the
like,
short amount of time that we've grown in technology, it's been so crazy how where we're at now.
I know.
It's just insane.
It just seems like
Where's our flying cars, Spooky?
I know. But I think people are being wasteful with RAM and memory. I think what they were able to get out of 64K back in the day is to me way more inspiring than someone buying like a 5T hard drive that's like the size of that's like this big or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
And the things that the programmers were able to do with such limited amount of data,
it's insane
you know?
because they also used to do extra little programming around in order to save memory, so that it'd be like you have a program and then you attach another program to make up for, like, oh, we need a little bit more memory just to have a little bit more graphics for the hand to come out of
Yeah,
I don't know, whatever. I mean, just the shit they would do. The ingenuity is amazing with that early, the early, because I remember we used to copy, we used to have magazines, and we would copy the code, like it would be like basic or C plus or something,
oh yeah.
computer language, and we'd copy the code, and then you'd have this like game. You'd have a computer game, but it would be like a really long thing, and if you made one little mistake, the whole thing wouldn't work.
The whole thing's fucked.
It's just that shit is.
And you gotta go through it to find where the mistake
I know,
is. And
yeah,
then at that point it's like,
find
yeah,
that.
I'm not a fucking computer programmer.
That's just that
I'm
shit
just
was.
gonna pick up a guitar and learn how to sing.
I know it's just, but I don't know. There's something just really. I don't know. There's so
Even
many.
music, man, music as well, like how it used to be reel to reel, you know?
Yeah,
Like
I know.
recording a reel to reel. And then, dude, my uncle had a reel to reel player at home, and that was the most fascinating thing I've ever seen.
Oh shit.
We had an 8-track player, we had a reel to reel.
Mm.
Like I grew up around music because I have 4 older siblings, right?
Mm.
And just learning about music and like being growing up, it's just a casual thing. You're not really a big fan of it until 10 or 11 years old. Then it starts to click. Then you're like, oh, okay, I want to learn how these people do this.
Mm.
And now I want to learn how to do this, right? Like when you grow up around that kind of thing, it kind of inspires you to do shit, right? I don't know how it was for you. Like, how did you get into music? I don't know if you have any siblings or not, or
Yeah, I have an older brother, and he was basically, I got all my music from him, basically
okay,
all of it. So especially obviously when I was first experiencing music. So I mean, he was basically into. I mean, he was basically into like a lot of punk stuff, like the Ramones and the Stranglers, sort of
mm,
new wave punk music, punk new wave, or at the time. So, um, and then, but he also had like He, I don't know. I remember he got Caress of Steel. I know. Fly by Night by Rush.
Ah,
And,
one of my favorite albums.
and I thought, man, when I heard that, I was like, what the hell is going on here, man? That just like,
Dude, and it kicks off with Anthem too. Like it just punches you in the nuts right away.
it's insane because that album was already pretty old for when he bought it, because that album came out like, I don't know, 72 or something, or 73.
That's 74 or something like that, 75.
And we
They
were
were touring with Kiss actually at the
okay.
time.
So that was so it's just something it's always amazes me, like, when these albums, I'm always trying to compare. I still feel confused, to be honest, by what music was happening at the same time. Like, it sometimes it
I
blows
I love doing that. I love trying to connect all those dots, man.
the fact that, like, you know Rush is coming out with Fly By Night at the same time that, like, um I don't know, like, Roxy Music is it rock, or I don't know, maybe not Roxy Music, or like some of the, like, earlier kind of computer music was happening at the same time. You know what I mean?
Oh, like craft work and stuff like
Kraftwerk.
that. Yeah.
There's like these, uh, it's always just mind blowing to see, like, what music was all happening at the same time. Man. I find
And
it.
then the thing about Rush too is that they got really into the synthesizers in the early 80s. And then that became the basis of their music later on in the mid 80s, right?
Yes, I mean, I'll never forget, actually, because I was super getting, I was like totally into Signals. I remember,
Love Signals. Oh,
because that's one of
Grace
the,
Under Pressure too, man.
yeah, like, so when Signals came out, it was like, it came out, you know at the time when it, like, I listened to it when at the time that it came out. Let's put it that way. We
Right.
My brother got it at the time it came out, and then it's like when God, man, when and then Grace Under Pressure, right? And then Power Windows. And that,
Ah, yes.
like, Power Windows, man. I'll never forget, man. That just fucking blew my head off.
Big money, man.
I mean, I was so,
Marathon, big money. Oh my God.
the
Fuck.
artwork and everything. You know what I mean?
Crazy.
But wait a minute, but I'm trying to think now. Wait a minute. Is is Grace Under Pressure after? No.
Grace Under Pressure was right before Power Windows.
Okay, okay, it is, right. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, okay. Yes. Yeah, Grace Under Pressure. I mean, I listened to that album probably like 4 times a day. And then, so I was so pumped up for Power Windows. I was so ready for it. And then it completely blew my expectations, like, way, like, just like way out, man. I was like, wow. It was like
It's
listening,
awesome.
like, I thought I was like listening to music from the future. That's
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
so
And
futuristic.
still, it still sounds futuristic
I
when you listen
know,
to it.
I know,
And
man.
it's same with Gary Newman's first album, The Pleasure Principle.
Mm.
Oh, it still sounds like the future when you listen to it. And that
Right.
was that was made in '79, the year I was born.
Oh,
And
okay.
it's like
I'm
I
talking
put
about.
on,
See, that's it. See, I wouldn't have guessed that that was 79, but now that you say it, I'm like, whoa, damn, that was
yeah,
79.
he was a progenitor, one of the progenitors of like synth rock.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
79, shit, man.
Fuck, so many albums came out in '79 that I love, like Dynasty from Kiss, The Wall from Pink Floyd.
All right.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I was
So
huge.
good.
The um the first two, for some reason, I don't know why, but like, I don't know how I got these, why it was these two records, but the two double live albums by Kiss were like this whole thing for me. It was like, um
Like a live one and two.
yeah.
Yeah, amazing.
I'm not even sure which one I like more. I think I actually probably like Alive One better than I like Alive Two, because Alive One had like,
Oh, a live one is definitely better than two.
oh, it is, right, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. because their earlier music I find is that's when they were like really young and hungry in their early 20s, and they just went balls out. And then by the time Alive 2 came out, they were already getting all the money and the pussy that they wanted. So they kind of tamed the music down a bit.
Yeah, they like
That's my theory anyway.
probably, yeah, they became so just over, they became so pompous, you know.
Yeah.
And like they I'll never but there's I have to say, but I feel like I'll never forget there's like a if you look at the back of Kiss Alive 2, and if
Best
you look
pictures ever.
the picture of Gene Simmons is
With the
so
blood. It's
yeah,
so freaky, man.
it's the
It's like
scariest.
blood coming out of his fucking eyes and
If you look at that picture now, it's just like it's still it holds up, man. I mean,
yeah.
we're so advanced with like the special effects, man. I mean, you gotta. I'm not sure if they get enough credit for that because there's no other band that was going that far with like makeup and like the pyrotechnics and shit. You know what I mean? And
They they they
the
they wanted their images to be instantly recognizable for the entire fucking planet.
mm,
And they did a great job with that.
I mean, incredible. I mean, and that was that was the half of the appeal. It's just like, are these people real? I'd look at this and think, who are these people?
Yeah.
Really?
And that's the thing. They captured me right when I came out of my mother's womb. I was listening to Kiss records. And it wasn't just the image. It was the image mainly that captured me, but the music too. I love the music, but
Mm.
I had no idea that they were singing about fucking and partying the whole time until I grew a little bit older.
Right.
Like they have songs like "Ladies in Waiting," where like it's a lineup of chicks for them to pick out and fucking take to their hotel room, right?
Oh man, that's
But they
crazy.
were living that life, and it was authentic, you know.
But also, what's really probably just an amazing production all around is the music video for "Long Live Rock and Roll." No, is that what it's called?
Oh,
No,
God gave rock and roll,
no, I love rock and
or
roll. I love rock and roll. No, what am I talking about? Um, oh no, I love it loud. Sorry, I love it loud.
oh shit, yeah, yeah.
Sorry, I love it loud. What am I talking about? So
That
you have
was like their heaviest album, Creatures of the
right,
Night.
right. So, dude, the music video for "I Love It Loud" is the fucking not just well, okay, the music video is incredible, but the way it's recorded, like the drums are so loud
Dude,
and
the drums,
the drums
Eric Carr's drums were
are
a
insane.
fucking
And
monster
you
on that
can
album.
it holds up, man. If you watch that video and you listen to that shit, it's just like, holy shit, man. It's scary too. It's scary.
Yeah,
It's like, and it's just like dark suburban, typical sort of like American.
the family's having dinner, but the teenage boy is sitting in front of the TV watching his favorite band, and then he turns around and his eyes are glowing, and then he walks outside on the street and everybody's possessed by Kiss, right?
Yeah, it's crazy, and it's got there's like this common theme in a lot of those early heavy metal videos where it's all about you're listening to something that your parents are against. You know what I mean?
Yes,
'Cause it's sort of like
yes.
the dad comes in, he's like, "What are you doing?" Like that Twisted Sister video, or whatever, where he goes, "What are you doing with your life?"
Yeah, yeah. But
It's
it's always been that way every generation, man. You know what I mean? Like even in this in the 60s, like people when the kid would be listening to the Beatles, the parents would be like, "This is of the devil," you know? It's like
right.
anything that expands your consciousness is of the devil, you know?
But I think what's special about the metal period in terms of like anti-parents or like sort of like forbidden music, or you want to call it, is that they put a spotlight on the fact that
Yeah,
that it's like the parents don't approve.
right.
They would actually showcase that. I think that's when they came out with those explicit lyrics.
That was Tipper Gore and D. Snyder battle.
Right, which actually
Yeah,
helped sell records. That
yeah.
would help
It
sell.
backfired on them.
It's like explicit lyrics, man. I better buy that album, man.
Absolutely. The same thing happened with video games. There was a game on Sega CD called Night Trap back in the early 90s,
Uh,
and it was full motion video, and these women were getting trapped by like these vampire creatures, but they were like kind of like, you know, not really half naked, but they kind of were like wearing like negligees or whatever. And then the government, they wanted to put labels on video games now.
mm.
And it's like that made these games sell even more now too. It's like it just backfires on them all the time. It's so funny. Are you
I
looking
just,
something up?
I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. Well, oh, sorry. I just want to double check. It is called "I Love It Loud," right?
Yes.
But isn't there another song by? Yeah. Okay. Anyway, there's another metal song called "I Love It Loud" by another band, I think, and I'm getting them all mixed up. So.
I didn't know until fairly recently that on that album Creatures of the Night,
Mm.
there's a song called Rock and Roll Hell,
Mm.
and Brian Adams wrote it. And
Mm.
I shit you not, I shit you not, Brian Adams wrote it. They were in leagues. Actually, Brian Adams wrote a few songs for Kiss.
Oh shit.
And I just heard an AI version of Rock and Roll Hell where AI Brian Adams is singing over it instead of Gene. It's fucking wild, man.
What?
Yeah, it's so crazy.
Well, what's funny is that again, okay, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure um I was made for loving you, baby.
Yep,
You were made for no. Yeah,
I was made for loving you.
I was made for loving you by Kiss was written by Mick Jagger, actually. Is
No,
that true?
no.
Oh,
2000 Man on that album was written by the Stones.
okay.
So yeah, Jagger wrote 2000 Man. And that song 2000 Man was on the Rolling Stones album called Her Majesty's Satanic Request. I think that's what it's called. Yeah.
Okay.
And Ace is my guy.
Okay, yeah.
Ace is was a huge Stones fan and a Keith Richards fan, very highly influenced by Keith Richards. And he took that song and made it a Kiss hit.
That's awesome, man. That's great. Before we okay, I gotta say one more thing before I forget about Kiss is that
It's funny how we just nerded out the whole time.
no, but I gotta say one thing about Kiss is that I want to say that maybe the most underrated bass player in rock is perhaps Gene Simmons, actually.
Dude, I'm telling you, try to play some of his bass licks, you won't be able to do it.
Right, and it's no his bass, and it's and the reason why I bring it up is because I feel like I've said this also about for some reason sometimes like the more theatrical artists people don't realize that they're also musicians. Like people
They underestimate them. Yeah,
get
for
caught
sure.
up in the fact that oh he's got the makeup on, yeah, because Gene Simmons never really talks about chords or riffs.
He only talks about like who he's fucking or like this
Yeah,
and that. He doesn't talk about being a musician really.
he doesn't talk about like
But he's
songs.
really good.
He's really, I mean, he's an amazing bass player, man. He's amazing. And I just brought that up because I just feel like I don't know. I think there's something on Facebook about a year ago where someone said, "Who's the most underrated bass player?" And I wrote Gene Simmons, and you know, just
Did you get
because
attacked for that?
it's also just like not recognized as a bass player. He's not. I don't feel like he's not even recognized. They
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, you're absolutely right.
I mean, and this is a bit of a different, a different well, similar kind of thing. Is like um David Bowie. I never really thought of him as like an amazing vocalist. I mean,
Mm.
for most people that might be obvious, but
He's
because of
so British.
the reason why I'm bringing it up is because he's also very theatrical, and he's got he had the makeup and everything, and
Keep talking. I'll be off camera for a sec. Keep talking.
so Ziggy Stardust and everything, very theatrical, blah blah blah. And so you don't really think of him as being a technically amazing vocalist, a technically brilliant vocalist, until I saw him live actually in Toronto at the Molson Amphitheater when he played Moby's. Moby had like a festival in the mid '90s. It was like it was like his Lollapalooza,
Okay.
and it was called like I was I don't know what it was called, like the '01 festival or
I
it was
think I recall that. Yeah.
like, I don't know what it was called, but it was basically because Moby was massive in the mid '90s, and he decided that he wanted to have his own sort of touring festival. So
Right.
so it was like maybe 8 bands, and David Bowie was on the tour, and David Bowie went on before Moby, right? And anyway, it's my first time seeing David Bowie, and the thing that just blew my mind is I couldn't believe how excellent of a vocalist he was. I mean, his intonation, and it was I was just like, oh shit, David Bowie's an amazing vocalist.
So it clicked for you then, right?
I didn't realize,
Yeah.
and so again, it just just to reflect back on Gene Simmons, like you don't really think you don't when you think of Gene Simmons, you don't think right away, oh, great bass player. You'll think, oh yeah,
The
man,
demon that spits blood and breathes
guy
fire. Yeah.
with the long tongue with the blood, and then David Bowie, you think he's a guy in a spaceship, and then it's like, well, no, actually, he's an incredible vocalist. I mean, the guy, no problems, man. He was
Sometimes, like these artists who are very amazing showmen, they their show gets elevated above their artistry, above their talent, right? But those some of the bands that I love the most, like Peter Gabriel when he was first in Genesis. He was the guy. He came up with the makeup and the costumes, but the guy is a fucking incredible singer. Alice Cooper, his his studio albums don't compare to how he sounds live. Slipknot, say what you will about Slipknot, but they're talented motherfuckers. You know, some of these people like to put a mask on, just maybe because it's an insecurity issue, perhaps. But I think a lot of artists have insecurity issues too, right? And I mean, like artists are like their own worst critics, you know. Like when you're writing a song, I'm sure you've had a ton of songs that you've tried to write and you kind of scrapped, you put it on the side, and you're like, I don't like it. But then if somebody were to hear it, they'd be like, dude, you gotta fucking make this fucking song, you know? So there's a lot of that going on in the industry, and
yeah, no, I agree. It's also this thing where it's like, um, sometimes you can have like a great musician like who is technically super proficient. I mean, but they don't necessarily want to shine a light on their technical ability as
right,
an instrumentalist. They're more focused on, let's say, songwriting or whatever. So, or like pop songwriting, let's say. So, like, you might not know. Whereas, like, a prog rock musician wants people to know. The prog rock musician wants people to know that, like, they are a great musician. It's like,
sure,
Look,
like Dragon
I
Force.
can play these
Okay,
chords. Yeah,
I
exactly.
get it.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas, like, you might have a guy that could be in Dragon Force, but he chooses to write songs for like Celine Dion or something. You know what I mean?
Sure, sure,
It's
yeah.
like, and I'm always fascinated, like, why is it that like some musicians, like, even though they have these certain abilities, in the end they choose to focus on this thing, you know? It's like, why is it like, or like, there's like painters, for example, like I know this painter who she's can draw like she could draw like very photorealistic kind of drawings, and she's an amazing technical drawer, illustrator, whatever. But when you look at
Does
her,
she use egg by chance?
no, well, yeah, no, well, now there's a real talent right there. There's a real amazing.
Absolutely.
So
I'd
but
like to
uh,
give her a shout out. Give your wife a shout out here, man. Check out her art.
yes, please check out my wife's brilliant artistry. It's yorihatakeyama.com. I'm sure Davey Wavy will put the link in the
For sure,
below.
for sure.
Yeah, so my wife does she does this incredible it's this ancient, it's one of the first painting techniques actually that's that goes way back where um people, I think it comes from Italy actually, where they were using egg yolk as a kind of a binder or whatever you want to call it, that would
Sure.
dip the egg yolk, and you have all these different powders that are like these pigments, colored pigments that are natural pigments. So you'd have like, and so you kind of create your own colors with dipping the egg yolk into these pigments. And
Kind of brings it out.
yeah, it's
I kind of got it right away when I saw one of her videos and she was using the egg, and I was like, "Oh, that's different. I wonder." And then it just clicked. I was
mm,
like, "Oh, this is fucking cool." And I
yeah,
was looking at her stuff. It was beautiful, man. Like she does like that kind of VHS kind of thing where it
yeah.
says rewind in the corner and stuff like that. I like that. It's
Yes,
nice.
yes. What she's always telling me about is that what she wants to do is like use old, like the most ancient classical painting techniques, but do like modern subject matter. That's her whole,
Right.
just kind of, I guess, like connect, like ancient traditional shit with modern subject matter.
Super cool. I love it.
Yeah, she's I mean, she's such a hard worker. She's working, she's always, 24 hours painting away, man.
That's
Painting.
wild.
Yeah. And actually now she's doing another ancient thing, which is called fresco, where you use, it's
Yep.
also some ancient Italian thing where you paint into it's almost like a kind of like a concrete kind of thing. Um, I don't totally know the whole I don't know the exact terminology, but it's
Technicalities or whatever.
basically like a sand and water mixed to create kind of like a clay kind of concrete material, and then she lays it into this like strip of like a frame, and then you have to actually paint on it while it's wet. So she has about 1 hour to do the painting.
Oh, wow.
And then
So
and
she has to plan it beforehand, like
yes,
really.
exactly. So you have to. So she kind of like it has to be in a certain stage of wetness when she paints it.
Yeah.
After that, it
And
has
it's lime too, right? Fucking
limestone.
lime,
Yeah,
lime
limestone.
plaster. Yeah.
That's it. It is lime. Yeah, you're right.
I
That's
just
it.
looked it up real quick. I'm
Yeah,
not that smart. Trust me.
yeah. Limestone, I guess. But it's sand made from limestone. Or the lime, no, the lime is made from the sand, I guess. Is that right?
It's a lime plaster. It says,
It's a lime plaster, which is
uh,
made from water and
and it's
sand.
murals, right?
Murals, yeah. So
Yeah, yeah.
usually, right. So usually this is how they made all the old murals, like Michelangelo and stuff. They would, that's all fresco. It's called fresco. but what she does is what's called like a portable fresco, where you can actually, because she puts it in a frame, so it's like a portable mural kind of idea.
Nice.
Yeah, but I definitely recommend the people out there to check out her art.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
So one last question. The songs that you've been releasing recently, like the past couple of years,
Yeah.
are they going like let's say like Pliny the Elder, The Audition,
Yes.
which is a crazy Japanese movie, by the way. uh,
Yes, it is.
are
But
they going to be on the new album, or do you have a whole separate list of songs that you're gonna
uh,
use on the new album?
so I think over the past year or 2 years, I think I've released about 6 or 7 singles. I'm thinking probably half of them will be on the new album.
Okay, so it's gonna be pretty fresh then.
Yes, yeah, hopefully, yeah.
Yeah.
I
And do you
mean,
have like a set amount of tracks you're gonna put
I
down
have,
yet, or a number?
I have a big concept for it, but I think again, I think sometimes like what people don't understand is that it's because I'm not like uh I feel like there's no how am I trying to explain? It's just I haven't you know I don't I don't actually have the ability to work on the music all the time. I have like other
Right.
and stuff like that. So sometimes this shit takes much longer than I want it to. And I also and sadly I feel like sometimes I wish there was more of an I felt there was more of an urgency to finish the album. My problem is
Okay.
I have this idea and I want to finish it, and it's like, oh, and then it's like I want to kind of I want to change this, change that, and then it's like, and then at the same time it's like, well, does anyone, do people really care if I put out this album? There's this constant,
That is a huge hindrance, man.
yeah, it's
You
it's
you kind of got to do it for yourself,
I
you
know,
know.
but then I know, but I wish
But the Spooky Ruben fans want it.
I know.
I
I
want it.
do you?
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely,
that's good to know. If people tell me that they really want it, that might help me finish it.
dude. Like honestly, like
It's also
I
it's also hard because the past couple. I mean, I feel like every time I make an album, I'm like, okay, people are gonna really buy this one. This one's gonna explode. And then as
right.
you get older, you kind of like every time you make another album, you're just like, oh fuck, like no one cares, no one's gonna buy it. So it's just
I'm
like
sure there's people that care.
I know, but it's
Honestly,
like
that's the thing.
it's it not, but probably not enough to like actually make the money back that I spent on it making the album. But
Right, right.
I mean, but that sounds negative. I don't want to say that. It's just that
You got to step into
I
your
want to.
Spooky Ruben magical shoes, magical musical shoes, like MC Hammer did back in the '90s,
Oh my god!
right?
And I need the
And just yeah, you got to take
the
your power back,
gotta
man.
get the hammer pants, man. Hammer don't hurt him.
Dude, I don't get shit from doing this podcast.
Right.
I don't make money off of it. It's just a personal love for doing it. That's what I love doing about it. It's just I love doing it. I love being able to fuck, I connected with you. This is like you're like another step in my dream. You know what I mean? To be able to talk to you because I've always loved your music and it's
Yeah.
an honor. I got to speak to Ruben Huizenga from Glue Leg. I got to meet him in person. I got to speak to Alonzo from Carlos Alonzo from Glue Leg as well, and he's doing Glue Leg still with Christian.
That's
And I
right.
got to speak to Salvador Dream, and like these are all people I've always fucking loved, man. And it's
That's
like
awesome.
fucking amazing to be able to do what I'm doing, even if I'm not making money. Maybe the money will come later. Money's the last thing I'm thinking of. It's not the material. It's kind of like a spiritual journey for me.
That's cool. Yeah, I mean, I mean, I'm kind of in the same thing right now. And I mean, obviously, there's a dream that like somehow, my next album or someone will discover my old album or new or people somehow
Absolutely, yeah,
maybe one of my old songs will go viral or
yeah,
but I mean, and I mean, luckily I can say that like it's not like I'm putting. I mean, I've taken big breaks along the way. It's not like I'm constantly
right, right, right.
like it's just it's just you get beaten down. You get beaten
You
down.
absolutely do. You absolutely do.
It's so hard sometimes. You send or people will say shit to you and then like I've just had people kind of like or just record labels turn or say string me along and then kind of pull the rug from under,
Mm.
and then it's like and then I just feel so unmotivated and I feel just like well this is just not gonna happen. So
Ah, yeah, you gotta, yeah,
and then
you gotta, you gotta, yeah, you really gotta rise above that shit, man.
or like for example, or like I'll play or like I played a show like about a year ago here at Permanent Records, which is a pretty cool. It's like sort of a newer kind of hipster kind of music venue in what you'd call, I guess you'd call it Frogtown. And I thought I had a pretty good turnout. We had like I mean we had 90 people there, whatever. So and everyone was into it. There was another band called Auntie Hana. The place was pretty packed. I mean it's a small venue. There's 90
Yeah,
people there. People were into it. And then I called the guy like a week later, said, "Yeah, that was a great show. We want to do another show." And then the guy tells me, um, well, you what we do is you have to sell a certain amount of people. You didn't really get across our quota for in order for you to play the that room again, you didn't sell enough tickets last time or something. And it's just
right.
and I'm just like, what the fuck?
Like, dude, come on, man. Don't be a
It's like
douche.
I just like that kind of shit just brings me down so badly. I just feel like, what the fuck? Like that place, so you're that little fucking bar is telling me that after I had it packed, that I can't play there anymore. Like I'm not
Right.
cool. I'm not
Who's gonna play there tomorrow? Fucking Def Leppard? Like, fuck off.
I'm not cool enough, and I'm not selling enough tickets to play these venues. So it's just like it just hurts, man. And then you
It
just sit,
does.
and then it's like, well, what am I doing here? Why am I doing this?
Existential crisis, man.
Dude, I'm trying. In fact, it's the plan is it's actually gonna be two albums that I'm putting out this year.
Oh, okay.
Actually, two albums. But this is because why is it two albums? Because I've been working on all these different songs, and I have a lot of songs, but like 80% of them are not finished yet. But it's just now it's turned into like 25 songs. But
Right, right.
it's like it and it conceptually it makes sense for it to be two albums. So my new idea is to release two albums on the same day, and maybe that'll wake some people up. I don't know.
Like, look at this. Look at how much fucking work I'm putting in for you,
Two fucking
motherfuckers.
albums. Because to be honest, I feel like after this, man, I don't know if I can make another album, man. If once I put out these two albums, I'm done, man. I'm done. Yeah.
You feel that way? You truly
Well,
feel that way?
maybe I shouldn't say it. That sounds bad. I don't want to say it like that. I just kind of feel like um it's just very hard to always be trying to like convince people or trying to get a gig and then you can't get a gig and they don't call you back and it's just because really all I want to do is play gigs. I'm making the album so I can play more gigs. Because and it's like I keep
That was the thing. That was the thing for Russ and Toby from Salvador Dream too. They were talking about how I said, dude, your music was so fucking good. Like, why didn't it take off, right? And they think their mistake was that they weren't doing enough gigs. They weren't touring enough. But they said like they exhausted their budget from their first tour, and they couldn't really tour enough, and then they kind of just fell off the wayside, right?
Mhm.
Granted, they did go out, they did go off and do other things, but they kind of got lucky right now in a way, in a sense, because their album was on Warner Brothers,
Mhm.
and Warner wasn't really giving them the support. But the guy who really did give them the support 30 years later is now saying, you know, this band was one of my favorite on our label. And so he was willing to give them the funding to remaster it. So they're remastering it now, and then they're going to do a documentary now. And, you know, like you never know what's going to happen,
Mhm.
Spooky. Like even me, like I didn't know what the fuck was going to happen with me doing this podcast. I didn't know I was going to be able to speak to you. I didn't know I was going to speak to my greatest fucking favorite artists from the 90s, you know? And like just let things happen and try to be as positive as you can.
Yeah.
I guess that's what I'm saying. I don't
Uh,
know. I could
well,
just be I'm a philosophical podcast at heart.
uh,
So I have that kind of like mentality of like being positive. And I know it's not easy to stay positive all the fucking time, especially when people are like throwing shit at your face. You know what I mean? It's like you gotta try and just wipe it off and keep going.
yeah, man. I mean, listen, man. When you're making music, it's like it's all about being positive. If you're not positive and if you're not
Mm,
excited about it, just forget about it. It's just it's like
yeah,
it requires the amount of enthusiasm and positivity it requires to make
yeah,
art in general. I mean, it's and especially as you get older, I find it gets harder and harder to muster up the enthusiasm, you know. Because I'll get enthusiastic about something. I'll be like, oh man, this is pumped. This is fucking. I'm killing it, man. And then and then the next day you listen to it, and you're like, maybe like you feel a little, and it's kind of like, I don't know, man. Maybe this
nobody's gonna want to listen to this
and then
shit.
and then like and then like a couple of days go by, and then it's like, and then you haven't really, and then you start thinking about other shit, and then you get sidetracked onto some other shit, and then it's like, and then it takes another week to get back to what you started, 2
Right.
ago, and it's just to keep the momentum going and to stay enthusiastic is it's probably the hardest thing.
It's funny too though, the way that you're talking right now, because like when I listen to your music, it's so jovial.
Right, right,
You know, it's so upbeat and positive. There is a lot of sadness in there too,
right.
but for the most part, you're like I would say a pop rock artist, and it's like very positive sounding, and
Mm.
that's what I love about it. Like it just like, it's like all right, yeah, you know what I mean. So I don't want to hear you talking negative anymore.
You're right. I shouldn't. Yeah, I think I think it's. I think I mean, I hate to bring up like the getting older thing, but it's like I think also the thing that's not so good when you get older is that like everything takes longer. That's what I've noticed.
Right, right.
Like everything takes me like just to like plug in my guitar or record something. It just seems it's like this very. I have to like. It's like I have to like. I have to take everything. I gotta
You gotta muster up the fucking sack to do it. Yeah.
push myself so hard just to do one little thing, and then it's like, oh fuck, it's not, it's like not good, or or like it's just everything is I think when I was younger, it was just like everything was just like, okay, you know grab a guitar, do this,
Right, right, right. You had the energy.
and then but I think, but maybe the only thing I will say is that I feel like I haven't lost, or maybe I don't want to say that, but I feel like at least I know I have an idea. I feel like I still have an idea for how to make something sound exciting, and I think that's why I'm like maybe I think if I was just, I feel like I'm still trying to push myself and make sure that what I don't want to do is like what I see with a lot of bands that get older, like even some of these old punk bands I used to listen to, is like when the albums they make when they get older, they're
Yeah.
just like they're like the worst. It's like the people just you can tell it's like they don't really care about anything. It just sounds like jing jing. You know
You
what I
know
mean?
the
Like,
the
you know,
funny thing
just
the funny thing you're saying about that is like I fucking love Ace Frehley, right?
okay, good, right.
And his last album is like one of his best sounding albums,
Mm.
but it's because he got this guy teamed up with him. I think it was his name Steve Brown or something like that. And he used a lot of AI. He used a lot of Ace's AI voice to make Ace sound way better than he actually is. Because if you look at Ace actually playing now, he's just like he could barely strum a fucking chord.
Oh God. Oh man. Oh man.
It's so funny. And I'm like,
Oh
dude, Ace sounds on fire on this album. But then you realize it's fucking all AI driven, right?
God. No way.
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
That's bad. Yeah, that wow. I mean, what? Well, I mean, but is he playing live though? Is Ace playing live?
It's horrible.
Is it?
It's
Oh,
bad, dude. Like I
man.
feel so bad. It's like, dude, some of these people really need to learn how to just fucking hang it up
Hmm.
and enjoy the rest of their life.
I
Maybe
mean,
he is enjoying sounding like
yeah, but
shit. I don't
I
know.
mean, he's really old, man.
He's old. He's like 70 something, right?
Yeah. Fuck. I mean, Jesus.
But like even ACDC, the guys at ACDC, it's like they keep playing until they fucking drop dead on stage, literally.
I know, right?
It's like, dude, just hang it up and
But,
just
yeah,
like go on a beach somewhere.
that's the dream. That's the dream, though. The dream is to just die on stage. Yeah, that's the dream, man. I don't
It's
know, man.
hilarious.
Yeah. Um.
Well, I think
Yeah.
we've run your hour,
Okay. I mean,
but
I mean, obviously, there's so many more things we could talk about.
for sure, for sure.
I really enjoyed speaking to you, Davey. Great.
Thanks. I really enjoyed this too, man. It was way
Great.
better than I thought it would be. And it
Okay.
usually happens that way now. It's like I get a little bit of a nervous thing because like you're one of my favorites, right? And I've never met you. And now I'm speaking to you, but it went so well. So I really
Cool.
appreciate that. Um, do you want to send out a link where people can find you? I'm sure they can find you on, do you have a
Yes.
website or
I guess spookyruben.com. SPOOKEYRUBEN.com. And that has links to all my other things,
perfect?
yeah, and so look out for my two new albums coming out.
I can't wait personally.
No release date to be announced, obviously.
Okay.
I
Well,
mean,
this is a nice little stepping stone for people to
yeah,
recognize you, find you, and
exactly. Maybe,
hopefully,
yeah, maybe this is
yeah,
yeah. Maybe I think you actually gave me a boost, man. You gave me a moral boost. So that's good.
dude, that's good to hear. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I appreciate that.
Awesome, dude.
Kick ass. So, Red Pill Cartel, man.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you so much, and we'll keep in touch. And the next song that you're going to hear is a Spooky Ruben classic called Wendy McDonald. And thank you so much, Spooky. Keep stay strong, brother. Peace out.
Take care.